Recording.
Welcome to The Heart of the Matter. My name is Ben Bruce. Just to introduce myself quickly, I am a psychologist and I work in Australia and I have a private practice there. I also run a blog online at brucepsychology.com, and today on The Heart of the Matter we're introducing a new initiative between brucepsychology.com and astraldynamics.com. And now I introduce Robert Bruce. Welcome, Robert.
G'day, son.
So this is The Heart of the Matter, and we're here to talk about the nittis grittis, the deep issues, the big issues involved in this kind of work. And this is an introductory, inaugural talk on the subject. So just to get the ball rolling, Robert, many people online, and you do have quite a large following in the online community, many people have noticed a change of direction in your service provision, in the products that you're providing and in the way that you're providing them. We know that you've been providing a practical astral projection intensive course on astraldynamics.com, and now there's been the creation of a new website entirely, and you've changed the way that access is available. Would you like to talk about that?
Yeah. The new website venture is astralbolt.com. Go along there and you'll get a nice free gift. We're giving away an ebook version of my first bestseller, astraldynamics.com, which you can download free just for signing up. It's worth going there. The change in direction into a more commercial aspect of my work, it came about due to an experience I had in the astral a couple of months ago, where I met a master, and in this experience it was suggested that I change directions and create a more commercial aspect of my work, as this is the only way that I'm going to raise the funds to build my physical research institute, which I've planned for 30 years. Now, I've been a starving author mystic for decades now, and I love what I do. For 20 years now I've been giving away a lot of free content on my website, astraldynamics.com, and this will continue. I'll in fact be giving away a lot more material, particularly video. And on my website you'll find countless articles, in-depth tutorials, and then there are my books which deal with astral projection, energy work, and many other things.
Yeah, just to provide a rundown on those books that you have published, first through Hampton Roads, and then Llewellyn Publishing, and now Red Wheel Books in the United States. You have Astral Dynamics, which is now in the second edition of printing, and I believe that was a completely revised version and a streamlined edition. You also have Practical Psychic Self-Defense, another book there, Mastering Astral Projection, which you've co-authored with Brian Mercer, and also New Energy Ways. You've also been providing the online course, Practical Astral Projection Intensive.
The book is called Energy Work, and I'm just about to release a new edition of that one. And a new edition of Practical Psychic Self-Defense, now called the Practical Psychic Self-Defense Handbook, will be released on the 1st of February, and that is a major revision. That's my latest work on that. But yeah, getting back to my plans, I mean, I planned for many years to build a physical research institute. You could say something like the Monroe Institute. And Robert Monroe was a similar age as I am now to when he founded that institute. So it seems a natural progression of, I've always dreamed of doing this. So what we're doing online now is a way of doing that.
So what I'm hearing, Robert, is that you are providing a new website, which will have a premium content on that website involving a fee for membership. And then the funds that you're raising will actually be funneled into the creation of a physical institute, an institute where you can conduct research, I gather,
Mm-hmm.
and other such things.
Yeah, there's a lot of research and experimentation I need to do. The astralbob.com is a front. We have just started a video blog, which is currently free to join. And that's where I'll be sharing a lot of free stuff. I'm going to be posting a video post there twice a week at least. But later we're going to create a subscription forum where I can have a private group of people which I will train my way. No holds barred, the real McCoy. And some of this stuff I can't put into books.
So this sort of no holds barred approach, which sounds very exciting in many ways, to get rapid evolution in the metaphysical domain, I gather. This is going to be the aspect of the premium fee for service aspect of the website. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. And it'll be a lot of fun. I mean, we'll be interacting a lot. There'll be a monthly challenge and monthly live video chats and things like that we'll be doing. And, we'll be going all out to make that a really fun place to be. And the opportunity to train a group of dedicated people who want personal training is really appealing to me. As I said, to do it my way.
So I gather some of the criticism of this movement into more of a commercial aspect online from some people out there in the online community and general community is that how do you marry spirituality, metaphysics and the human potential movement with commerce? Some people might be thinking that this sort of thing should be free, that you should remain the sort of starving author, mystic, ashram type person.
Well, none of that would change. The information will always be available on my website, astraldynamics.com. I will be adding to that new tutorials and articles there and in my blog and my big community. I've got several thousand members in my forums. I'll continue to share there freely. That's always going to be available and in my books. But what I'm doing is I'm not changing that. I'm just creating a whole new outlook, a whole new approach to this as well to work beside that. You're always going to have the altruistic free stuff, but I'm creating a commercial side of it, which will have premium video content, and that will bring in the funds necessary to create my physical institute. But also, our partnership program and affiliates, which we're designing now, we're offering a partnership commissions of like 50%, 50. So with that amount there is like, that's really sharing the wealth with other people, because at that rate there on a premium package, I mean, if you have a popular website or a radio show, you could make a serious living selling my products. So that's a good way of sharing, and that feels right to me.
So how does commercial enterprise and actually making money, how does that sit with you, considering some of your spiritual ethics?
Well, I used to struggle with this, like with healing and that. I mean, I've never charged for healing, and I never would.
So you never charge for healing?
I never would.
So there's some things that are like the sacred cow, so to speak.
Yeah, but I mean, I do accept donations because, I mean, for a year and a half now, I've been manifesting with affirmations. Money comes to me frequently, easily and generously with a plan to build my physical institute, which is going to benefit a lot of people around the world for many years, decades to come.
And I suppose that some people would just expect with a manifestation that the money would fall out of the sky. But I suppose the money's coming to you in a slightly different way.
Yeah, well, money will fall out of the sky. They'll come to you in many ways. Opportunities arise as a part of a manifestation process, and being vigilant, opportunities appear. It's a matter of grabbing them when they appear. But during the process of the last 18 months of manifesting this, there has been a shift inside of me. I felt it happen. And before, I wasn't very comfortable making money through what I do. But that shift inside of me now is I'm very comfortable with that. And money is energy. And I need a lot of energy and money to build my research institute. I mean, How much would it cost to build something like the Monroe Institute? You buy a couple of 100 acres of land up in the hills somewhere and build something. You need significant resources. I mean, I could wait for a rich benefactor to appear, maybe drop out of the sky somewhere, but
then I gather you'd run into other problems if you had, a fat controller, so to speak, a rich benefactor providing all of the funds. There might be some debate as to who's in control of the
strings.
initiative. Strings attached.
Yeah, but I don't want any strings because some of the things I plan to do in my institute, I mean, apart from researching new altered state inducing methods, sound and light, and attracting the right scientists to help with that, I will be running workshops and programs there, and training programs, physical ones as well as remote ones, video-based ones, and also experiments on astral projection, energy work, Kundalini, psychic self-defense, all of those areas that I work in, I'll be researching in and exploring. And you need facilities for some of these things. You can't do it in a normal suburbs. You can't do that. It just doesn't work.
So what sort of topics, what sort of services, what sort of methods, skills, applications, products will you have available on this premium site at astralbob.com?
To start off, we're planning 4 packages, and the first one is about astral projection, and the second one is how to raise your Kundalini, how to activate your Kundalini through energy work and chakras.
So Kundalini meaning a grand energetic kind of circuit.
Yep. Which is, Kundalini is an energetic transformational mechanism that exists inside of every person. And this can be activated through energy work and intention. And I've done it myself. I first raised my Kundalini when I was in my early 30s, and many times since. It's very little known about this in the Western world, because most of the real information on this is only passed by word of mouth from master to student, and very little's been written about this, so not much is known.
I mean, you wrote about this in energy work and also some of your other works, that raising Kundalini or activating this circuit of energy which is otherwise dormant in the sacrum, or correlating to the sacrum of the body, that when this is raised, one can achieve a transformation of consciousness.
Yeah, definitely. When you raise they call it the serpent of fire. When you raise Kundalini, it requires a significant amount of energy work and time and preparation for this. And when I did it, and I did it many times, I made just about every mistake you could possibly make. I had done no research on it. I think I'd read 2 pages on it about Kundalini in an old spiritualist book about 50 years old. And I just decided to do it, and I was guided to do this.
So quite a maverick.
Yeah, but luckily I didn't, because when after several hours of energy work, I prepared myself with a few days of fasting before then and purgatives, but it just seemed the right way to do it. And when I got the first major Kundalini spike, which shoots up through the spine, it's like mains voltage, and I think I came close to physically dying there. But I recovered from that and kept going. Now, I didn't know, once you have this major Kundalini spike and a brilliant mind's eye flash in your mind's eye, and this feeling of like concussion over the face. Now, according to contemporary literature on Kundalini, that's it. Kundalini's been raised, it's done. It's like you do it once and it's done kind of thing. You're now enlightened. No, you're not. A Kundalini opens up a whole new level of energy work which needs to be developed. Now, I kept going, and about 30 minutes after the massive spike, I actually raised the serpent. Now, the serpent of fire, they call it, the big cobra, has long but is commonly believed to be symbolic of Kundalini, but it's not. It is a physical sensation.
So in a sense, what I'm hearing is you're westernising or providing a Western approach to some of these sacred mysteries from Hinduism and Buddhism and yogic disciplines and so on. But perhaps some of these methods through language and through cultural norms that are different aren't very accessible to Westerners.
They're not accessible, as you say, all the things you said are valid and poor translations, but also it is forbidden to teach these things. These things, the real secrets of energy work and Kundalini, are only ever passed from master to student in person by word of mouth.
But I suppose on that note, talking about this new website venture on astralbob.com with the premium service, I suppose that you're going to be doing this through online means. And I gather that this master to student tradition, well, they didn't have computers back then, did they?
No.
So this is almost bringing the sacred literature and methods into the 21st century.
It will, because I'm not bound to a particular order, which has forbidden me to talk of these higher mysteries. I can talk freely about them and write about them. Now, I have a long plan to write a book on Kundalini, which would be the definitive word. I'll call it something like Kundalini Dynamics. Great title, I should write that down. Now, there I will share it, but I'm not ready to write the book yet. I mean, I have my experiences and I have the experiences of a dozen or so of my students with this, but I need more information and to work with a wider range of people to gather the information and how it affects different people and what to do about it to write the book. Just to quickly backtrack, I mentioned I made just about every mistake there was to make when I raised Kundalini. As I say, it almost killed me. It's a powerful thing.
You've learned the hard way.
I learned the hard way, and by recovering from these things, I've learned in depth on what to do, how to do it, what not to do, and how to recover if you make a mistake, which is invaluable as a spiritual teacher. You know, you really know this in depth, so you can give really, really good advice to people. And that's where I'm coming from.
So what sort of changes or enhancements or skills could a dedicated student of the premium service at astralbob.com, what sort of skills, benefits, enhancements could they expect if they really commit to the services that you're offering there?
You can expect more rapid progress because the methods I'm going to be teaching are cutting edge, you could say. They're new, some of the things I haven't taught before, and I'm going to ask the people, if you're here to work with me, literally follow my directions, do it my way. You're going to be doing a lot of things you wouldn't normally do. You're going to be doing a lot of verbal affirmations. You're going to begin the energy work. You're going to learn about your body image inside of you and how to see it and work with it. You are going to connect with your higher self. The higher self is also called the inner daemon, various names. It is a big aspect of you. You could call it the divine aspect. And you share the same energy body, the same mind. It is the silent observer inside of you. And connecting with that and using that power, the power of you could say your divine aspect, your higher self, it's best approached through affirmations, through manifestation, and also you begin the inner dialogue. You begin speaking with this being which is a part of you, and you start developing a relationship. And then, according to your capacity, the filters that you have, and everybody has them, all psychic abilities are blocked off typically in most people, and because they are the default settings, and these are controlled by your higher self. Everybody has full psychic abilities, 100%. Spiritual ability, the abilities to raise Kundalini, to have visions, to see clairvoyantly, to see into the astral, to hear into the astral, to see spirits, to hear spirits, to astral project, and all of these things are natural, but your higher self blocks these things off by default to keep us grounded here in the physical, because we need to be grounded here in the physical. If you have these abilities open and you can't shut them off, we call that schizophrenia, really bad. I mean, you don't want that. You need these things to open themselves up slowly but significantly under your control and the advice and guidance of your higher self, which is truly your spirit guide, your spirit guardian angel. And you push this envelope and you open it a bit more, and whenever it opens, you do affirmations. Thank you. I love to have visions. I love to be clairvoyant. I love to see into the astral. And you let your higher self know it's okay. I want to have visions in that sense. And with other things. So I have learned using this process myself, you can develop any ability you want. As long as you can handle it comfortably and you're good about it and your energy, comfortable with that, or you become comfortable with it by exposure, one little step at a time, which is the best way to approach these things.
So I think that with the supervision, with the guidance, with the teacher online and at hand, you'll be safeguarding people from making any terrible mistakes that are dangerous.
Definitely. And with Kundalini and high spiritual development, that's also where you come in, son. You are the best psychologist I've ever met, and my son.
That's kind to say.
You're also my number one apprentice, and you know as much about these things as I do. And one thing I've learned about spiritual development, real spiritual growth, is it's got nothing to do with psychic abilities. A black mage can have extremely powerful psychic abilities, and they do.
So this is a black mage, like someone on the dark side of the force, so to speak.
Just
can
because
still have the same metaphysical abilities.
Just because you are clairvoyant, or that you can have astral projections, or you're a great healer, that doesn't mean that you are spiritually evolved. What it comes down to is real spiritual evolution is about real personal growth. It's about self-knowledge, knowing yourself, your personality, and all the bits inside of you. It's about having good boundaries and a good sense of self-esteem and knowing yourself. It's all about self-knowledge, and it's all about good psychology, which is, and particularly if you're raising Kundalini and you're about to make that shift into a high level of consciousness. One thing that happens when you've raised Kundalini, it's like your subconscious mind picks up all of your baggage and all of your problems and all of your quirky bits, throws it in your face and says, deal with this, all of it.
So in a sense, this sort of metaphysical development or psychic development, if you will, looking at aspects of the psyche that sort of cross over into other dimensions or interdimensional theory. There's a crossover with this bringing up aspects of your own psychology, of the unconscious mind, of your own childhood and personal issues. These all get amplified.
Yeah. Well, whatever you do spiritually, whatever growth you achieve, spiritual abilities and that which you activate, it all comes down to you when you wake up in the morning and have a cup of tea and your normal life. You have to be in your normal body mind, in your normal daily life, you have to be able to handle these things and be comfortable with them. And so it doesn't mess you up, so you don't get delusions of grandeur, you don't become narcissistic, you don't become judgmental, all the negative things which can happen to you, which can really screw you up.
And this is really what I'm hearing is a very unchecked ego,
Yeah.
where arrogance and conceitedness and so on become expressed more so because of the abilities that the person develops. Mm-hmm. And when they develop these grand abilities and psychic abilities and whatnot, I suppose they start to look at themselves as being greater than the average human being, and then therein lies the arrogance.
Yeah, you could compare this to a person out of the poor suburbs in some country suddenly winning $100 million.
So it's sort of like a spiritual rags to
massive
riches.
change.
Rags to riches type of experience.
Mm-hmm. Now, the way I've developed these myself over the years have been slow and steady, naturally, with some leaps and bounds here and there, and a lot of sitting back, following the golden rule. The golden rule is that whenever anything uncomfortable or big or painful happens to you in a spiritual, metaphysical energy sense, stop what you're doing immediately, sit back, take a break, whether it's an hour, a day, a week or a year, as long as necessary until you feel completely normal again, and then go back to what you were doing. And if you approach it and rest, approach and rest, you approach and you push the envelope, and when it gets uncomfortable, sit back and rest. Doing it this way is the safe way to do anything.
It's very similar to an exercise routine. You know, you would increase and develop the nature of the exercise routine as you go. You wouldn't just sort of necessarily jump straight into the deep end and lift huge amounts of weights and tear your muscles. You build those muscles up over time.
Yeah, you would damage yourself, and it's the same with spiritual. We could say psychic development is a better way of putting it.
It's interesting. We're really talking, and you can see perhaps the conversation might be struggling a little bit with the interface and the overlap between psychology and I suppose psychological growth, spirituality, and then the psychic, energetic metaphysics. We're seeing quite an overlap between these different aspects of development.
And that overlap needs to settle down. It needs to blend and become comfortable, because you cannot escape the fact that you are a normal human being and you have to live a normal human life. You need to have relationships with a partner, with children, with friends and family, and you need to be able to maintain a balance in your life. And if you don't have this self-knowledge and this inner, know your own psychology and work on that, you are going to be unbalanced and you can have problems.
So after enlightenment, so to speak,
yeah.
After a grand metaphysical experience, if that's what you go through, you still have to do the laundry.
It's like post-traumatic enlightenment disorder.
Post-traumatic enlightenment disorder, like that.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. TM, it was my agent.
PTED.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, a lot of people go through Kundalini experiences, and you sit back and say, "Wow!" Kundalini turns you into a genius, or a genius artist, whatever your field is.
And this was the transformations of consciousness that I was alluding to earlier. That I suppose on your new website, the services that you're offering there, people can expect to actually develop, levels of consciousness which might even be considered as genius.
Yeah, you will. Genius, artistically, whatever your field is, whatever your natural inclination.
So musical, artistic, intellectual, technical, social,
depending also,
personal.
You could say a configuration of your chakras as well, whether you may have a natural musical or artistic bent, which is what is going to develop in you.
So again, this is linking to, between these domains we spoke about, the psychological, the spiritual, the metaphysic and psychical. Talking about chakras, you're talking about this interconnected energetic system which seems to subtly overlay or enmesh with the physical body. So we're starting to see that as a human existence, we're existing in a physical sense with flesh and blood and bone and sinew, and we're also existing in an energetic form. And I suppose with metaphysics and energetic and psychical development, you're talking about developing that aspect of the human form, the energetic, which I suppose is very similar to the Qi and the Kui of Qi Kung and Kui Gong and even Kung Fu with like Bruce Lee's 1-inch punch. You could, 1 inch plus all of the Qi, you'd land somewhere across the hall. So by developing this energetic system, you're then getting some kind of a feedback to the physical system and to the sociable system, interpersonal system and so on.
This, of course, is going to be a big part of what my research institute will do, is trying to find a synergy here to help these fields to overlap, to bring the best that the world has to offer, including modern medicine, health, nutrition, psychology, to bring it all together with the spiritual and the metaphysical.
So a synergy of various developmental aspects. And this, I suppose, goes back to the essence of brucepsychology.com, which is my small contribution to this subject. Hopefully it might become a bigger contribution over time. But it's focusing on what I call the pentagrammatical model, which is the overlap of many of these aspects of human existence and developmental potential that we've been talking about. So you have the eco, bio, psycho, social, spiritual, the 5 aspects there. In terms of doing a factor analysis, it's hard to kind of make it smaller or bigger than that. It seems to me, through research in this topic, that you have the ecosystem, you have the solar system, the galactic system and so on. You also have the biological aspects of being a human being, the flesh and sinew and so on. You have the psychological, the mind. And we can't actually say where the mind exists or where it's located. We say it's sort of in the brain, but we realise that this is a physical component of the psyche. It's connected, but not necessarily the same thing, or constrained just to the grey matter of the brain. And then you also have the spiritual and the social aspects, the interpersonal, but then the spiritual aspects. You know, the non-physical, the subtle, the divinity, the relationship to discarnate beings, perhaps, which is an aspect of development and human existence as well. I mean, you know, if 90% of the world believes in a higher being, angels, guides, God, you know, Yahweh, or whatever it is that your take on the matter is, based on your socio-cultural and psychological experiences, there is some validity there, that people have a spiritual domain, and I think we can't exclude that. So we're really looking into a cross-spectrum development of the human being, and this approach that we're taking now, in this sort of in the way that we are, is about enhancing the development of the human being cross-spectrum.
Yeah, to integrate some of these things.
To develop and integrate, yeah.
Based upon my motto of what works, works. Pull in the best of the best, and regardless of whether you believe in it or not, bring it in, try it on the size, and keep what works. And keep what works together. And yeah, that's
because
where I'm coming from.
there are many different aspects of development. You know, there's yoga, there's you know, Christianity, there's humanistic psychology, there's intellectual pursuits. There are many different approaches to this, and then also looking at the psycho-spiritual domain, there are many different ways of doing it there as well, and lots of disagreement, I suppose, amongst all the different proponents of those fields. So I suppose that whilst there's a lot of vindication or validity across those different aspects, and you can draw from all of them and tie them together and find out what works, there would also be a lot of dross, a lot of unhelpful, inefficient, unuseful aspects to these different traditions that perhaps has just been perpetuated through ignorance or through an untested, unverifiable aspect of these methods.
There's a lot of misinformation out there in the world today, a lot of books, and my way of looking at this is go back 100 years or so ago to the time of Blavatsky. A lot of Eastern texts were brought from the East to the West and translated, and some things didn't translate well, and particularly those things which were never written. I mean, a lot of people made up the gaps which were left out in the top secret stuff. And then you get authors, new authors and researchers using those old books as source material, and they add their little slant to it, and then another one uses that for source material, and you end up with a provocation of errors like Chinese whispers in some areas, and you end up with a totally unworkable system in the end, because every author that writes on something has either got to do it better than anybody else has done, or find a new slant for a new way of doing it. So you end up with these changes, and if some of these people in the past who I know have made mistakes, those mistakes have been carried over today and have become almost dogmatic.
Dogma.
Yeah, dogma.
Probably the great enemy to the human potential movement, that propagation, that perpetuation of error, the blind leading the blind, really, so to speak, isn't it? So I suppose this is a cleansing, this is an efficiency quest, this is about finding what works and doing what works to achieve the ultimate development of the human potential. Now, do you just before we close, to wind up, a lot of people are concerned, and you know, you might want to say a few words about this. People are concerned about the current age we're living in, and there's a lot of hype about 2012 and, you know, cataclysms and the rapture in some Christian movements, but even in the present world that we're seeing, the huge earth changes. I mean, at the moment, I think 80% of Queensland on the east coast of Australia is underwater. Victoria, Tasmania, the northern coast of Western Australia, and then there's been forest fires, and there's been, you know, heaps of experiences and happenings and goings on around earth changes at the moment. People are very concerned about global warming and climate change and so on and so forth. How do you think your institute, your quest for human development, cross spectrum might perhaps tie in with these changes we may or may not be seeing on the Earth, on planet Earth, in humankind?
Well, the planet has been around for a very long time, billions of years. If you look back through history, you know, find a 50-year period where there were no major disasters. There was no Krakatoa or major tornadoes and earthquakes and things, you know. These things happen in life. You get great floods and changes. The planet goes through these different cycles, and some of these cycles are very, very old and we don't have records of them. And then the Mayan calendar is set to end on, 2012 in December. If you actually look at the data and the scientists for the Mayan calendar, go to Wikipedia and look up 2012. And it'll come up there. And you read through the scientists that work on these calendars, what is actually there and not what is popularly believed. It's totally different. The calendar doesn't end there.
So again, we're seeing the propagation of error right there.
Propagation of error. It's almost like a conspiracy over the last 20, 30 years that it has become popular. People always need something to worry about. And I think governments and some other organisations actually promote these things to keep people worried and scared, because as long as you're scared, you're easier to control.
So we do need to be careful about how
I think so.
Fearful and catastrophic we allow our thinking to be, because perhaps that's about putting us into some kind of a stronghold of control, because people are very controlled when they're afraid. They tend to make rash decisions and tend to hand over personal responsibility for their lives and the lives of their family into the hands of the perceived authority, whoever rushes in at the last minute to save you. And we see this throughout history with Hitler and so on, when Germany was in a terrible state. The dictator, the fascist, rushes in to offer you the sweet solution, but of course it's a ruse, a two-shoe contract, and when the other shoe lands, it's really about taking away your personal sovereignty, and now you're mine, bitch, so to speak.
Yeah, you change all the laws, like they did in Germany, and that very shortly after that you realise you've lost your personal freedom and rights, and it's all been taken away, and you're now firmly under the control of a dictator.
So we do need to be very careful about our rights, our personal liberties, our freedoms. Perhaps your institute will help people in this regard, because we are seeing either way, come hell or high water, so to speak, we are seeing some kind of heating up in activity when it comes to humankind, whether it's happened before or it's cyclical, or there's a lack of prehistoric record, so we're not sure that this has been ongoing. I would say, in my opinion, we certainly are seeing a heating up, at least in this phase of our time. We're seeing economic meltdown, we're seeing a lot of war, we're concerned about running out of oil, we're having extreme movements in technology, and this is affecting, the psyche, it's affecting interpersonal relationships, the breakdown or change of the family system and the community system. So we are going through an immense rate of change, wouldn't you agree?
Definitely. If you look at the NASA website, the astronomers, I've read information over the last year, and they're pointing out that the other planets in the solar system, Mars, Venus, and Jupiter, Saturn, are warming up also at the same rate. And there is some kind of either a solar event or a cosmic event, galactic event, which is causing the other planets to warm up.
And there are no people, by the way, on these planets burning fossil fuels and creating a greenhouse effect there.
Well, I'm sure the pollution and that is another issue, but I'm sure we are affecting the environment to some extent, but maybe not to the extent we've been led to believe. But back to 2012 again, there was something going on there.
We are heating up, aren't we?
I sense with the heating up that
not so much the world heating up, but our culture is heating up.
The culture, I think, that's metaphorical. I do sense there is some kind of a spiritual shift occurring, which we are being pushed towards. And the work that I'm doing here as well, with the energy work and that, I think will contribute to that, because my way of saving the world, I can't do anything about the powers that be in the world, the governments and the corporations and that, these people are too big to face.
They're rather large and powerful little critters, aren't they?
Yeah, it's the only thing I can do is to help as many people as possible become enlightened, because every person in the world that raises Kundalini or the energy to become enlightened, to work at a higher level of consciousness, every person changes the whole ball game. And my way of helping the world is to enlighten, to raise the consciousness of as many people as possible, because that will create change. If I can get 1,000 people in this world over the next couple of decades to raise Kundalini and become enlightened geniuses, that's going to make a difference.
And even to sort through your personal issues and become a more well-adjusted human being. I mean, I suppose to define enlightenment, as we've already stated, it is about the holistic, cross-spectral development of the human being to achieve and maximise the human potential. So more people who are developed or enlightened, so to speak, the better, and perhaps there's some kind of critical mass of consciousness which will help all of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
So perhaps we should draw this to a close.
Yep.
You've been listening to The Heart of the Matter. My name's Ben Bruce, and you can go to my work at brucepsychology.com, and I've been introducing the new website that Robert Bruce has been working on with his business partner Timothy, astralbob.com, so please go to that and have a look at that. And we'll be back with you soon, talking about more big ideas and nitty-gritties about the change in consciousness and change in the world and various things that are going on all over the place in the heart of the matter. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.